and welcome to yet another episode of POV, your favorite political commentary show. Now, should you be lucky enough to watch this episode before the electricity switches off, you might just hear something about Zinara and maybe the Reserve Bank governor. So, let's get it. Now, we start today's episode with a breaking story hot off the press. Now, we usually wait a few weeks for this sort of thing to develop, but we felt that this is something too good to pass up. I'm talking, of course, of the latest update on what's happening at Zinara. Zinara's acting chief executive officer, Ms. Matleen Mujokoro, and audit manager, Mr. Shadrack Matingabaza, have resigned. And 19 employees have been arrested for fraud cases involving more than $210,000. Now, some of these employees have had 55 counts of fraud against them, and some of them even have up to 70 accounts of fraud against them. And the penalties? Car fraud. Now, the new board has vowed to fight corruption, and this is a great first step. We're especially encouraged by the words used by one of the members, Engineer Mbadana, who said, on commenting on the story, the previous executives were sitting on all fraud reports from our internal auditors because they were part and parcel to that game. Now, if you remember, when we first spoke about the corruption happening at Zinara, we mentioned that a big red flag was the fact that the leadership was blatantly disregarding internal audits. Internally, it was being pointed out that the level of greed was just too much. And now we know why they were nonchalant about them. They were part of the game. And if this is the consequence of what happens when people are part of the game, this is what we're talking about. Transport and Infrastructural Development Minister Mr. Joel Biggie Matiza appeared before Parliament's Public Accounts Committee to give oral evidence on some of the goings-on, including, and this killed me, guys, the splashing of thousands of United States dollars, yours and my United States dollars, on hairstyles. I could go to Dubai for 4 days, stay in the Ramada Chelsea hotel, get a haircut, go to the Lock, Stock and Barrel and watch Liverpool beat Tottenham in the Champions League final. Mari, please let that happen. And they still have more fiscal discipline than the person in our next story and have done all of that on less than $1,000. What kind of hairstyles are these? People, I cannot begin to mention how monumental this is. These are the sort of steps we want to start seeing happening in our country. One of the biggest issues we have culturally is that when people are up to no good, they have a clear or mistaken understanding that there is no consequence that comes from their actions. This is what we need. We need more of this. And so to the Public Accounts Committee, to the Minister, to the Zinara board, we say thank you very much for finally putting your foot down and allowing this rot to end. We look forward to seeing how more of the cases that we mentioned in the previous report are dealt with. This is great stuff. Let's move on.
This gorgeous slipper seat can be yours now. Contact 0731 700 700 and follow Fifth and Park Zim on Instagram for your upholstery and custom-made orders.
This past week, we saw the Reserve Bank governor of Zimbabwe, Mr. J.P. Mangudya, receive a contract extension for an additional 5 years on the job. It almost goes without saying that this decision has left many Zimbabweans here and all over the world shocked, to say the least. The simple reason is because during the course of his tenure, the governor has not always been able to garner the necessary confidence in us. So naturally, the announcement will be met with its fair share of doubts. But before you say we're being unfair, allow us to explain why we're holding this position. See, the governor's first official statement was on the 7th of May 2014, in which he called for the equilibrium between promoting indigenization and the need to mobilize foreign direct investment. Already, he was beginning to demonstrate that he understood that in order to bring this country forward, local businesses had to be empowered and foreign investors had to be inspired. Now, however, during that first statement, he also spoke of creating a pathway for reintroducing the Zimbabwe dollar, which at the time had both industry and the ordinary citizen very concerned, an effect he would continue to have with his statements and policies even up to today. Now, at the time, the EU was very interested in dealing with the governor whose one job, people, was not to repeat or continue gononomics. Unfortunately for us, the governor did not only continue, but he seems to have doubled down on the practices of old, the practice of breaking promises and being a walking contradiction. Most notably was, of course, the introduction of the bond note in 2016. The notes were introduced as an export incentive at 1:1, which was highly contested at the time. Remember people saying, how do you just create a currency and give it a value? That's not how things work. The youth took him to task, business took him to task, but the only way he responded was in making bold statements, and none more bolder than the one he made on the 14th of September 2016, in which he said, and I quote, "Give us a chance to do what is right for this economy, to put it back on track. If these policy measures fail, if the bond notes do not work out, I'm willing to resign because I'm genuine about getting the economy back on track." 3 years later, this is the quote. "The bond note did not fail. It was an export incentive and it pushed exports. What failed is the economy due to excess government expenditure. We now had excess funds in the economy and we couldn't maintain parity between the bond note and the United States dollar." To speak of high government expenditure as if the central bank was not involved is just mind-blowing. But the contradiction, the contrast, in one extent saying that you're going to put your job on the line for these bond notes, and then on the other hand, totally divorcing yourself from all accountability, saying that it's not us, it was the economy that failed. The economy run by who is the question. So remember when he said this?
Zimbabwe doesn't have its currency. Parastatals its own currency. Parastatals is a medium of exchange, but it's not a currency. So Zimbabwe doesn't have a currency.
Literally 3 months after saying that statement, the RTGS became a currency, a devalued currency one at that. This is the trend that happens with our governor. At some point, he speaks in confidence of something, and then the next part, he's divorcing himself of it. So which one is it? Where is the confidence supposed to come from? Of course, perhaps maybe we had it all wrong because the RTGS, before it was a devalued currency, was a cryptocurrency. Remember that? Now, to get a full understanding of where we're going in terms of the confidence that the governor has instilled for us, what about this scenario? In December 2018, Mangudya had predicted that based on the several running fuel facilities, all those glorious facilities, the central bank had secured, as well as the anticipated lower demand of traditionally difficult month of January, that fuel queues would disappear. But what he didn't mention was that the central bank was shelling out more and more fuel imports each week, thus crippling the rest of other industries and making it tough. And so the opposite proved true. Queues only got longer, darkening the crisis and the mood in our country. The central bank has been well documented as to having a terrible lending practice to the government, which has raised concern that perhaps they are the biggest feeder of the black market. Now, such rumors grow legs when Parliament unearths that the central bank is in debt of up to $7 billion US. And we say to ourselves, how, under the governance of our good governor, does the RBZ, the central bank, get to that point? Now, obviously, we're just skimming the surface on this one, but that's because it will be our main subject when we go live on Thursday. And you can join myself, Patience, Fari, Chris, Baba Jr., Tish, Tanyana Zoa, and the infamous John Rambo, and the rest of the live family as we go deeper on the subject. However, we have one question for now. If this government is truly open for business, is trying to establish good rapport with foreign businesses, is trying to regain the confidence of its people, is desperately trying to show itself as being different from the old regime which awarded people key positions with no meritocracy at all, then how is it possible that a widely unpopular governor whose policies have only served to cripple our economy can be rewarded with an additional 5 years on the job? We pose this question to you, our audience, and please comment in our comment section and let us know what you think, because for us, we're a little bit concerned. There's so much that's happening in this country right now. ZETDC just released its load shedding schedule, and right now POV is being filled with the generators booming in the background. Nothing is making sense. But the problem that we are having, or at least that I'm having, is the inconsistency in trying to understand where we're going. You see, in one instance, you see justice being served with the Zinara leadership being brought to Teal. And then in other instances, you see our Reserve Bank governor being given an additional 5 years. And you say to yourself, where's the consistency? Where's the ability to be able to say, this is what this government is about? Where is the ability for you to say, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that we're going to be taking in X amount of months to be able to get to Vision 2030? What I'm saying is there a strategy for inspiring confidence in the people? Is there intention in doing this? Is there purpose behind doing this? Because sometimes it feels like unless there's some sort of foreign investment or international viewer watching, there's nothing that is burning for it to happen. Why must we always wait for something grand or something big to happen? Why can't we start to see a predictable pattern of behavior which demonstrates a seriousness towards getting things done? I am encouraged by what's happening at Zinara. I am concerned about the second story we said. But what I'm wanting and what I'm asking for essentially is consistency. Can we just get some consistency? Things are upside down, fine. But if we are consistent in what you're doing, we'll be able to organize the chaos for ourselves. For Zimbabweans, we can do it. Can we please, just have some consistency? This is Kuda Mangwe wishing you a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Sign up for Kubatana's weekly magazine full of news, inspiration, and job opportunities at +263 779 567 768 as a contact on your phone, and then send them a WhatsApp and say, news.